Right now, I'm in P mode. I'm at ISO about 800, and I'm just going to let this thing do its thing. And I just want to grab this shot, and that's it, right? Notice that the light just changed, though. Bummer. Did you see the value of the light on their faces just a second ago? It was bright, vibrant, it was beautiful, it was flat lighting, but it had a little more contrast to it. Right now, to me, that's kind of flat, okay? Because the sun, what's my reflector? Anybody?
The ground.
Nope. That building. Yeah. So if you turn around, I'm always looking for stuff like this. That building now is going to light her more. That sun just hit it. I saw it got brighter. I look over here. They got a little more contrast in their face. So that right there is my reflector. I'm always looking for natural reflectors. And I don't mind. This is a program thing. Now, I incorporate the back of that right there because I want to show it's kind of a cool thing. And I try not to direct too much. Wow, that's kind of cool. Woo-hoo. I like it. So that painting is part of this. Watch your composition. What I do now, and it's kind of really natural because I do it quickly, when I look through the viewfinder, my eye does a circular motion in the corners of the viewfinder. Top, bottom. Because when you're outside, even in here, you beware of how you're shooting via the composition that you're using, right? There's times that I see people having twigs come in the back of their heads, a light pole in the background that's not completely out of focus, out of the back of the head. Move yourself. Like if I shot this right now, that little cherub up there on the tree is actually coming out of the back of his head. So I move myself over so that his head is in between the cherub on the tree and that chicken-looking thing all the way to the right-hand side of this thing. So that's kind of how I see this. I just move it over and I grab that shot. Oh, look at each other. Come on, you love each other. That's the one. All right. So that's what I do. When I go to a wedding, if I see it, boom, and then I'm gone. It is not a photo shoot for me. Weddings aren't photo shoots. You grab the shot, you're done with it. Think about this for a second. The longer you pose someone, the stiffer they get. You know, unless they're models, and I have shot plenty of models and actresses and actors that are so comfortable in front of the camera that posing them, you know, that's not a problem, right? And even if you have to do it for a long time. But the way that I work, I need to shoot this really quickly. The quicker the better, because the more that they have to think about what they're doing there and the more that I move them around, the more uncomfortable they get. Because psychologically, sometimes what people think is, well, is he getting it? He's taking so long. What's taking so long? Am I not doing something right? Because they're not used to this. So here's a thought. I'm going to do this now, as a matter of fact. Can you guys come step out for a second, right here? Right here is good. Right here is good. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Joe.
I'm John.
John, nice to meet you. You're her husband.
Yeah.
Your pretend husband.
No,
For real?
For real.
I love this. Oh, we have real husband and wife. This is cool. So imagine now, let's just do this, because I'm going to kind of take this away from where we were scheduled to do, which is the first look. They've already seen each other now. But we are going to do the first look. Instead of, let's say this was going to be my portrait, and you normally have your arm around her, right? And this is going to be a formal shot. And here's what people do. Okay, now I want you to turn your body a little bit, and I hate hands, and you know, maybe hold her hand or put your hand around her waist, right? Lean into your, yeah, okay, very nice. Okay, what if you spend so much time doing this, but all you're getting is a very traditional portrait, but you want a little bit more emotion? Here's how I do my formals. You ready for this? It's really easy. Simply ask them a question, okay? All right, you don't have to do that anymore. But holding hands is good, though.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to chat at you because I don't know who you are. I just met you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Normally, this goes a lot further because I know my clients. Through the process of the pitch, through the process of the engagement session, which I also almost insist on doing, and not because it's extra money, but because this is an opportunity for me to learn who they are. More importantly, this is an opportunity for them to learn who I am, so that by the time I get to this point, their wedding day, they know, oh, that's Joe. and they open up to me like a book because they know who I am now. But how about I do this? So I want to take this portrait of them, right? So I want you guys to think for a second. I mean, you love each other, don't you? Okay, did I just ask them to do that? Did you see what just happened? Huh? They looked at each other. It was a real smile. It had honesty in it. Instead of me saying, look at each other, now smile. It's a whole different feeling because it's real. If I ask you, can you tell me the story or think about the story of where and when he proposed to you? What was that like?
Yeah, so we had it was at our college. There was a little chapel that was above the chapel at the college, and I had some rose petals going up. She was on spring break, which was kind of fun, and so I was able to kind of create everything, make sure everything was done. I made a little book for her that had the story of the prince and the princess, and it was basically our dating story together, and so we got to I made it through, which was good.
So, when he proposed, what'd you feel? What came up?
I was shocked
Yeah?
because my parents said that he could have their blessing. So
Aw.
I was very excited to marry this man.
That's awesome. Did you see what just happened? Now, granted, they had a mic in their hand and all that stuff, but what I usually do is just that. I ask them a question. So now that you just got married, right? You just literally think about this. You just walked down the altar. I have you here in front of you in a portrait, and I want you to think, how are you feeling right now?
Woo! That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, did you really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There it is. For me, that's done. So instead of really hanging out so much time trying to create this perfect image again by posing, it's a couple questions, how are you feeling? I do that with my engagement sessions. I might go to the place where he proposed. And maybe they were seated at the table, in the same table. I'll try and find it, right? So then I ask him, so tell me what happened. And the minute you ask them a question like that, where do they go? Right here. And right here, and they start to remember. Memories, I'm functioning, I want expressions that function from getting it from their heart and their minds and their expressions from that, right? So that's the idea. So then it says, so what did he do? Now she's going to have to remember, well, I was waiting. I wasn't sure because he looked a little anxious, and finally the waiter came over, and oh my gosh, there was a ring in the champagne glass. And I said, what is this? I said, so really, how did you feel? And click, you're done. These shots are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're finished. Your engagement session is done. This setup is done in literally a minute or two, because for the sake of education, I'm doing this for a little longer because I'm speaking about it. But normally, if I had them in this doorway like this, it's a couple questions, it's boom, 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 we're finished. We're on to the next thing. And I've gotten real emotions. You'll see the images. There's some real smiles. Because how about it? How would I have done this? All right. I want you guys looking at each other. All right, I want you to laugh. Come on, I want you to laugh. You're married. It's not the same, is it? It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same if it came from here, which it did in the initial thing, and when you cried, God bless you. Oh.
Sorry.
No sorry. It was beautiful. That was real emotion. That's what they'll remember. So when they look back at the images, when they go through the book and they see this, oh honey, do you remember this? Yes, I remember exactly how I was feeling, or I remember how I was thinking, what I was thinking. That's what it's about. That's what the book is about. And so when you get it from here, that's what they'll remember, and they'll relive it. They'll relive that moment again, over and over. I often joke with couples, look, in 10 years, and you guys know each other that well, and you need to be reminded of what it was like on day one, open up the book. You get into a fight, an argument, you disagree with each other, open up the book. You know, I mean, it's okay to disagree and all that, but if you really want to connect back to, well, you know, what is this all about now? Because now life has gone and moved on again. You relive it. You relive everything that you said to each other in the vows. I look over the shoulder during the ceremony. I'll nail the vows that they're holding in their hands so that they remember. I see vows that are written, handwritten by the bride, on the table where she's getting her makeup done in front of the mirror. And it's scratched up with pencils, outlined this. I'll look over it, I'll grab it, because believe it or not, that stuff gets thrown out. But I'll have it. I'll document it. It'll be part of their book so that they'll always remember what they said to each other and that they took the time to write it. That's awesome. You guys are great. Click. See? The clicks happen really quickly. Okay, so here, we're going to set this thing up. It's really easy, right? You're going to come from out here. Okay. Now, you're coming over here. I'm going to tell you something. If this were a scenario where they were going to see each other beforehand and she wanted the oh my gosh moment from him when he turns around, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to find someplace. This is not ideal, okay? I picked something like this because while I have the luxury and the fortune to have amazing spaces to work with because people spend a lot of money at the weddings that I do, a ton of it, we all started, including myself in the beginning, and I know a lot of you are shooting weddings in not the most desirable conditions and locations, okay? So I'm going to give you one. There's these green umbrellas. You know, I'm going to work my way around it. I'm going to cheat the camera so I don't see those umbrellas. I'm going to just get this stuff right here, and I'm going to position him out here. Come on. I want you about right here, like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Clasp your hands behind your back. So I'm going to go play with the camera. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And what I would do first, just to set this up, I want him sitting there for a while. I want him to think about it, because what I've told him is any minute now, you're going to turn around when I tell you to see your bride-to-be for the very first time, okay? Now, he's already known, based on what she said about the dress, he's not seen it most of the time, and she's just explained that the dress is really beautiful, you're going to be really surprised, so he's already been prompted that this is going to be an oh my God moment, okay? So the first thing I would want to do is, actually I shoot him like that because his hands are naturally clasped behind his back. I didn't tell him to do that, but that's where he's at. So I would probably shoot this first. And what I'm going to do, remember I said that I can actually grab these shots and change the f-stop and do all that stuff? I'm shooting this at 2.8. Okay. That's all I'm doing right now. I just wanted to throw it. Now, I did it in program mode, and in program mode, right now it's saying F5 at 400th of a second. But I didn't want that street to be too obvious, or the wall and the tree. And I positioned him so that the tree is not directly in front of his head, where it's looking like it's going to come out of his head. So I put myself here, cut out the videographer, woo, and then I turn around and I see her. So that's my first shot. I want him standing there. She's patiently waiting. Sorry for that. Yeah, and you can look around at him because this is, look at him. Yeah, there you go. That's very nice. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have you walk in a second, right to the edge right here. I'm going to shoot over his shoulder, looking at you. So I want you to peek around the thing and then walk towards him, right? And stop right here. Stop right here, right? And I'll get him to turn around. So then I've already discussed it with her where I want her to stop and walk and freeze. I'm going to talk to him now. We're good. Okay. In a second, she's going to come from back and, oh my God, wait till you see what she looks like, dude. She's awesome. All right? And then I'm going to ask you to turn around to your left. I'm going to run back over to her side, right? And then you're going to turn around and see her for the first time. And then however you're feeling in here, let it out. It's all good. So I'm going to grab a couple shots of you, and you had your hands clasped behind your back. So I see light that's on your face right now, and I need you to kind of step back just a hair and out of the light. Move that way a bit. Right there. You want to peek at him. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, you anxious to see her or something? Not yet. You can, good, right there. So when I tell you to turn around, I want you to turn around, okay? And you'll turn to your left. So, You stay right there. Move to your right a little bit, love. That's good. Right there, right there, right there. Oh, I like this. All right, are you ready to see her? She's looking pretty awesome. Go for it. Yeah. All right, my camera's busy, but grab those shots. Grab those shots. That's pretty much what I do to getting ready stuff. Now, I usually extend it a little further. I make it last a little longer. Sometimes his family is in front of him like you saw on the slideshow, or her family's behind. Typically, it's a private moment for the two of them. So that's kind of what I do. It's a turn around and grab these moments without saying anything else other than they can walk towards each other and then they'll kiss. Those are all quick, quick, quick. Instead of saying, now dip her, now do this. No, 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 don't do any of that. They naturally will do this. You won't have to say a word. See, the thing is that couples, brides, grooms, they all do things naturally. If you stay aware and stay in the moments with them, they will do things without you having to say a thing. How many photographers do I hear when the bride has just gotten the dress on and the bouquet is down and she's looking in the mirror, right? And the photographer goes, oh, can you look over your right-hand shoulder and fluff your dress a little bit? You know, pick up the veil or pick up the dress and fix it a little bit. And they grab these shots. What do you think a bride does in front of a mirror? They look at herself, and what does she do? Adjust, primps, fixes herself. I see this at every wedding. They do it naturally. You have to know, having had the experience of being at a few weddings, that this is what happens when the bride gets dressed. She will always look in the mirror. She will always put on lips. She will always fix her hair and make sure that the veil looks proper. She will always, with 100% of the time, look down over her right shoulder at her dress, pick it up, fluff it, drop it, and look in the mirror. I don't have to say anything. They do that, right? Yeah. So pretty much as much hands-off as I can get away with. And yes, there are times I have to direct. I told you yesterday that I'm a mixed bag. There are times where I prompt a moment. There are times where I even create the moment. This is kind of like create. Is this PJ what I just did? It's not photojournalism. I set it up. But when he turns around and sees her for the first time, is that a real feeling? Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And as you, yes, please.
I like the way that you did that on your own, because typically sometimes I work by myself. So how you shot him this way and her coming in and waited for him to turn around. But do you sometimes set up with your second shooter this and you, yeah, so he knows where you're going to be and vice versa?
Here's what happens with my primary shooter. Is I have this is my gig right here. Over her shoulder, over his shoulder, seeing his expressions, seeing hers when I first grab the one portrait of him and then zoom in on her. That's my stuff, right? Now, my primary shooter will be right here, doing a wide. Catching the sides of her peeking around the corner and him that way, okay? Now, we're not in an ideal situation here because we got a fence, a picket fence, we got all that stuff. But yeah, my primary is out of sight in terms of where I'm standing and where I'm looking, and he's usually shooting from the side. Are there, per the chat room, any questions right now based on what I just did?
Let's see.
Just curious.
There are lots of questions. Let me just pull one up
go ahead.
really quick. Come out from the bushes here.
Sorry.
Leaves of Grass Photography is wondering, it seems like you're quite involved in the first look.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better to just leave this moment happen and leave the bride and groom more to themselves since this is an intimate moment?
But how do you, yes, but how do you suggest, most brides and grooms in my experience say, what do you want us to do? How is this first look going to happen? So in other words, it's hard to leave it to their vices because they have no idea what the first look is supposed to be like. Of course, the best first look is when the bride walks down the aisle and the groom's already at the altar, right? So in this case, I have to set it up. And part of the setting up of the groom is also to let him stew in whatever feelings are already churning in him and egging on a little bit so that I get him to express it a little more. Not most, I say quite a few grooms would be reserved about showing emotion, especially if you let them do their own thing. And he'll turn around, oh, that's a nice dress, honey. And yeah, and, you know, there's the bride. And then there's more, right? But no, that's because he has no clue of what to say or what to do in front of the camera. So if I direct it a little, and by that I mean if I set it up and I put little bugs in his ear like, wait till you see her, oh my God. I'm just prepping him psychologically to turn around to expect something amazing. And usually, if not always, they react that way. They will just come out and just go, oh my God, honey. I mean, you saw the one with Leanne Rimes. I mean, most of them, and even Mandana and Peter, the groom turns around and they weep.
There's just so much
There's so much emotion because it's been churning. I let him sit and stew on it for a while. Then, you know, if the parents are around to see, then they also will, you know, mirror to him what they're seeing and what the bride looks like before he can turn around. So that adds. Yeah, that adds.
You just keep building suspense
I build it,
over and over again.
Pretty much.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Question from Beth Olson Creative. How does Joe get that genuine smiles and laughter when shooting groups?
Groups?
Yeah.
Oh, humor. A lot of it's humor. So when I do my formals, the first thing I say, okay, this is a GQ shoot. I might even do this for Vogue. But when I say that, I'm already ready to shoot. So they laugh when I say that. Or I do this, because who's doing the formals? My primary shooter, right? So I'm the guy that might step in once in a while and say, and have my camera, and I go, all right, I'll take a couple shots too. So I'll grab a couple shots. I go, oh, I got to change my card. Hold on 1 second. And I put the camera down. I said, you know what? Talk amongst yourselves. And so what do? They start talking, laughing, making jokes. I pick up the camera because I don't have to change cards. The card's still good, man. Click, 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 click. And then they go, oh man, that's cheating. Yep, click, 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 click. So it's humor, it's taking them off guard. It's also making sure that they don't feel like they're in a photo shoot, that this is really relaxed. So sometimes I interrupt my primary shooter and I totally undo them. So it's great that it's like a pyramid. They look wonderful, but then I say, okay, you guys need to chill for a second, okay? I need the groomsmen to unbutton their jacket, stick a hand in the pocket, lean on a shoulder. That's what I want. Girls, take those bouquets, hang them down here, man. Give me some attitude. All right, do one of these for me. Lean against your partner over on the side. I just get them to relax. I said, all right, now we're like the cover of Vogue. And laughter. Click. There you go.
Cool. A question from CL Lachey regarding the first look. Do you ever work with videographers in the first look? And if so, do you say, you can have this area right here, I'm going to be here, kind of like direct the set a little bit?
It's always great to, with video beforehand to work out where everybody stands. So I do that. I'm definitely involved with video being on the premises and around the shooting location and figuring out where we all stand so we're not in each other's shots. They don't want me in theirs, and I don't want them in mine if we can avoid it. Now this is a tight little place. I had video over there grabbing us from over there, but I was able to cheat over and cut him out. And I don't think he could do that with me, although I think the intention was to get me, right? I think he had to get me, yeah, okay. So, yeah, I always work with video.
Okay, Elise says, hi Joe, for the first look, do you prefer to have the family around for this or not? Does that matter to you?
It doesn't. I asked the couple that because what happens a lot of times is that the bride will say this is a private moment and it's just for he and I. Absolutely. Others say, oh no, I want my dad to be there. You know, so it's all dependent on the bride and groom, and I always ask them. I will always ask them, what would you prefer? Private, just the two of you? You want the bridal party, which usually maid of honor is my best friend or is my sister, or family, or do you want just alone?
Sarah from Buenos Aires is wondering if you are bracketing your exposure. She says, I hear 3 shutter clicks almost every time he shoots.
That's how I shoot. What I've learned, and it's not bracketing. It's not bracketing. I hit it 3 times. I try to, here's why I do this. This is something that's kind of been, I've done it to myself. When I'm on the dance floor, or if I'm in the church and I'm using a long lens and I do my whole, elbow on my hip or on my camera, hold it, and I hear or I see in the viewfinder that the light that I have is 1/4 of a second at 2.8, I take a deep breath, let half of it out, fire 3 times, bam, bam, bam. Because what I tend to do is try and time it between my heartbeats, or at least to where there's no interference. I have found, in my experience only, I can't totally vouch for everybody else being able to do this, that in those 3 frames, 1 will be sharp, 2 will be out of focus. And so it's bracketing in the sense that, not about the light, but about the steadiness of it. So even out here, it's not really necessary. But what I'm also expecting is I want to make sure his eyes aren't shut, so there might be 1 or 2, or 1, 2, 3.
Great. Okay, twin pearl photography says, what do you ask when you've exhausted the what are you feeling, aren't you happy to be married type questions?
But I'm done. I don't need any more questions. That little scenario is it for me. If I'm going to do a formal with them and I want genuine emotion, I've got 1, 2, 3 questions. I'm finished. I am absolutely finished with that. Now I'm saying there's also formals. So now my primary shooter, or me, will take them somewhere and do something really pretty. Hold hands, look at each other, also very short-lived. But what I was trying to show you here is I want genuine emotion. So there's nothing nicer than to see in your wedding book you and your husband coming out, holding hands, and laughing from within. And so I want to access that instead of trying to ask for that. There's a big difference between asking for it, can you laugh now, or accessing it by saying, how do you feel right now?
Chat room is wondering if you could set up this shot just really quickly, how you would work it if the father was in the scene.
Yeah.
And if you could use maybe one of the students as our father.
Yeah, we can do that. So whose father? Hers or his?
Volunteer?
Whose father would it be, his or hers?
They just say, demonstrate a first look with the father.
Okay, so if I had to do it this way, and she's around here, Dad will be over there. If you were there, come on, Dad. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'd say keep the cool on. Yeah. So, yeah, no. And you're good here for a second, but you're facing her. You're looking over his shoulder. And you're clasping your hands behind your back like you were. Remember, I have myself and the primary shooter. So I'm either going to be on her when she steps out. So initially she's around the corner, right? I'm either going to be on her or on him. And my primary shooter will be on the opposite end. So let's say that the primary shooter is already going to get this shot as she's coming out, or is over the shoulder of Dad from afar off the corner to get her peeking, okay? And the minute she steps out, whose response am I going to be looking for? Dad's. So I'm on him and I say, step out, love, step out. And he's going to go, oh, there you go. And I'm done there. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to hire you as the father for all my weddings. I don't care. You're the father. That's it. That was awesome. But do you understand? So that's nailed. My primary shooter is over the groom's shoulder, having the groom in part of the photo out of focus, and then nailing the bride's expression coming out, seeing Dad. Because what's going to happen to bride when she sees father? She may cry. He may cry. So both of those are taken from both ends like that, simultaneously. Okay, so Dad's now done. He's seen his daughter. He's now saying, what is the groom doing right now? He's looking at Dad's response. If Dad's now crying, Or he's gotten the glasses off and is going, oh, the groom already knows what that bride's going to look like. He's now churning even more. So I love this. This is why usually I will put the family in front of him, her family behind, right here, seeing her coming out first. I will do that first because he's going to hear them say something about their daughter. Oh my God, honey, you look beautiful. Wow, that dress is crazy. She churns. She gets the smile with the little choked up tears as well. Click, 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 click. He's churning like crazy. Dad now responds, goes completely nuts. So there's stuff that you can do that helps this. It's harder to do alone. That's why I had to direct more. Go ahead.
Okay. Nebsi asks, how do you deal with cultural weddings that don't allow much of private moments when families act as a coordinator? Things can get out of control. How do you tackle that? From Orlando.
Yeah, I've never really had an issue because, again, remember, when I do my pitch, it's based on the, they hire me based on me and the image that they've seen. So if they've already seen that, they will say, well, that won't happen in my family. Then they won't expect it. So here's what I do, and I want you to think about this. When I'm at the contract level with the clients, we talk about how many guests. I have a timeline from the coordinator. How many guests will there be? Tell me your preferences. Are you going to see each other beforehand? Is there a ketubah signing? Whatever it might be, I make notes on my contracts. That contract comes with me to the gig. I make notes at the gig. If something falls out of line, like there was supposed to be a 5 o'clock first look, and it didn't happen until 6:30 and there was no light, I make a note. Instead of 5, it was 6:30, the first look, and it was dark. I had to use flash on camera because if I get months later the bride saying, what happened? My first look is like horrid. I don't like the light in it. You used flash. Well, I go back to the contract. I have my notes. Do you remember that I suggested to you that we needed to, either do it somewhere else or that we're losing available light? It's just to remind me because after doing wedding, and then months later, 8 months, 9 months later, you get this feedback. And that happened to me in the past where something changed and the bride got sick and she was in her room and didn't do coming down and the grand entrance. That wasn't part. And she was upset that there was no grand entrance photos. How come there's no? Do you remember, honey? Because I made notes. I asked your father, and your father said you were sick in your room, and you were in that room for 2 hours. She was pregnant, and she was having morning sickness. So I have to remind him, oh yeah. So if I don't write these things down, it's important. So when you have a client that says, that's not going to happen, my family's very strict. Chinese weddings are much like that, right? They're very, and it's introspective. They're people that really aren't outwardly showing emotion. They just don't do that. Having said that, I've seen plenty of Chinese weddings where the bride cries and the father looks down because he can't take it and he's crying. So, and while it seems like it's a private thing, the way that I shoot it with the long lens, I'm not in their face. And I'll let them know that this is how I shoot. And I will show them cultural weddings where, culturally speaking, this is not the norm. However, I'm still able to capture it, and they let me. When the client knows you to the extent that they know me because of the interactions I've had with them, and by the fact that they feel comfortable with me, when it comes time to the wedding, what do you think happens? Because they know who Joe is and why he's there, because he loves this so much. They become open books. They let me in. I am not that brilliant at capturing moments. I'm going to say it again. It's not about me. It is about having permission from them to see that. So it's their beautiful way of letting me in because of who I am. And I've allowed them to get to know me by virtue of sitting in front of me, engagement session, coming to the prints afterwards, talking about the images. I interact with my clients before the wedding 4-5 times. So, and I do that on purpose. I want them to know who I am so that when I show up on the day of the wedding, I'm just not a paid vendor. I'm Joe. I'm your friend. I'm here to document everything that happens, and you're going to trust me. And they do. And that's when they open up. Whew, that was a long-winded explanation. Go ahead. Is there anything else?
Yes. Dana in Messina. How much time do you set aside for the first look?
You know, I think first look's about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, it's not long. Everything that I do, formal is no more than 15 minutes. You know, you have a handful of must-have. It's immediate family stuff, you know. It's bride and groom alone, bride and groom with parents, bride and groom with bridal party, bride and groom with grandparents and parents, you know, and siblings. That's pretty much it. It's like 5, 6 setup shots, then we're done. If they request more, you know, and sometimes they do extended family, I might suggest to them, you know what, if this is before cocktails and cocktails are going on, maybe we can do that afterwards. Because again, what I want them to do is interact with everybody that's at the wedding. And if they're in cocktails and having a good time and I'm taking care of shooting them right now after the ceremony, you can't spend that much time. So that's why beforehand, done. So this first look, what happens, now I do the portraits of them really quickly, and then the next step is family within 10, 15 minutes are here. If they already aren't here, bridal party will be coming down now. And so now we knock out all the formals right here. That's my typical wedding. Not always. A lot of times it's not till afterwards and on the altar in the church. Okay, I do those as well. But the majority of my weddings, I knock it out right here, right now, 15 minutes. So you got a 10-minute first glance, 15 minutes, a 15-minute shoot with it's a half hour altogether. We're done.